I'm here this evening to tell you a story. To tell you a story about coming home. And in that story, there's some data and some research. There's a policy campaign, an existential crisis, 10,000 Facebook followers, and over 200,000 pieces of mail. But at its heart, it's really a story about how I and how we at Voices, and in a way, how many of us in this network are reconciling how we do this work with why we do it and with who we are. But before we get into that story, I want you all to take just a few moments, think about your story. So think about what guides you and inspires you. Think about your home and the places that have shaped you. And think about how all of those things brought you here, to this work, to this conference, and to this room today. Now, part of the reason why I'm here is because almost exactly 20 years ago, I took a high school civics class trip here to DC, and that's where I first began to really fall in love with this work that we do. And I'll never forget, it was at the National Archives, and I remember just being awestruck. We'd gone there to see the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And being in the presence of those documents is being in the presence of true power. And realizing that that law, that governance, that policy, that they are how we can shape our world into what we will it to be. And I remember kind of breathlessly hovering over those documents and knowing the oppressions that they had helped cement and uphold, but also knowing the freedoms that had been born and could be born of their pages, and knowing that I wanted to be part of their story. Part of realizing the whisper of the promises that they held for all that our country could be. Part of making it, as Langston Hughes said, the dream that the dreamers dream. The land that never has been yet and yet must be. And even though I was 2,000 miles from New Mexico, being there felt a little bit like coming home. Because that's what realizing part of your life's purpose is. It feels like a part of your soul is coming home. These are another couple of parts of my soul, my purpose, my home. This is Luciana and Augustus. And this is another part of my home. This is a ranch in northern New Mexico where my mom grew up, and her dad before her, and many generations before them. And this place, New Mexico, its land and its skies and its people, they made me who I am. They're in my blood and in my bones. And like many of you all, I've always wanted to fight for those communities that I came from. The workers, the people of color, the parents dreaming of something more for their kids, the people whose voices have been too often drowned out by those of wealth and of power, and those communities that have too often been cut off on the path to prosperity. And in New Mexico, that really shows. We're ranked worst or near worst in the nation on too many indicators of well-being, including poverty, food insecurity, wages, the percent of families that are working but still poor, and we're ranked worst in the nation in overall child well-being. Now, knowing this, in 2016, we began to plan for something bigger. And we looked forward 3 years to 2019. because we knew that that's when we would have a pretty new cast of policy characters, that we would have a new governor, and that we would have seen the majority of our state legislature up for election. And so we began to plan and began to envision a broad agenda of prosperity for all of New Mexico families. Now, at that time, we also knew that we were good at the way we normally did our work, that we were really good at research and policy analysis, at creating charts and reports and communicating our findings to policy insiders, and that we were pretty good at playing this role of a non-biased, non-political organization that avoided controversy and stepping on any powerful toes. And then we had our vision of all that New Mexico could be. Of it is that land that the dreamers dreamed. But what we did not know was whether or not we could get there from here. And so we faced sort of an existential crisis. Was the way that we had always done things still the right way to do them? Were we analysts or were we advocates? Were we really naming and fighting against the oppression and systemic racism that we knew was at the root of so many of those rankings that we regularly reported? We've all faced these moments in life where we asked ourselves, are we doing what we are meant to do? And can we do more? And the answer for us at Voices was at first a bit timid, but then a growingly resounding yes, we could do more. And in order to be true to our values, and in order to truly start to create change and equity, we had to do more. And so we began to envision a stronger organization and a stronger state. We rolled out our roadmap to a stronger New Mexico, and with the help of the Center on Budget, we now had new resources and new tools that enable us to deepen partnerships and to directly communicate with those communities that we were fighting on behalf of. Some of those tools enabled us to send mailers like this one to nearly half of the New Mexico voting population in the weeks leading up to the 2018 election. The tools also helped us generate crucial constituent phone calls to key lawmakers at clutch times during the policy process. We now had the resources to do extensive messaging research to much better understand how everyday New Mexicans thought and talked about fiscal policy. And we were now able to really strategically target social media posts, to really tap into the more than 10,000 Facebook followers that the center helped us build. And for us and for many in this room and in this network, translating our research and analysis into really compelling narratives and to proactive campaigns sometimes felt intimidating and challenging, even risky. But that experience helped permanently expand the bounds of our work in a way that took us not just to new places, but also brought us closer to home. Closer to the reasons why we did our work, and closer to the communities that we were fighting for. And the result of that homecoming was that we won. We helped generate significant new revenue and new funding for crucial education and health programs. We helped ensure that the biggest corporations and the wealthiest earners paid more of their fair share in taxes, and we also improved fairness for families because even with all of that revenue raising, 70% of New Mexico families with children will see an income tax cut. And while we were doing that policy work, we were also shaping a better policy environment. We trained new legislators and helped shape the narrative on fiscal policy so that our legislative champions are now talking about taxes like we do. And while we were working to build a stronger New Mexico, we were also building a stronger organization. One with greater capacity, experience, influence, and with a stronger commitment to equity and to partnership. And as much as there is to learn in the lessons of how we and partners in this network have done this work, one of the most important things is just the hope that comes from being reminded that not only can we win and win big, but that we are not locked into a previous version of ourselves. That we can challenge ourselves and our organizations and our networks to grow in new ways, and that being boldly and unapologetically true to the reasons why we come to this work is always the right thing to do. Now, I and we at Voices have learned a tremendous amount from our proactive revenue campaign that has, in a very real way, made our home a better state to live and a better state for my kids and all of New Mexico's kids to grow. But home is more than where we live. It's more than these people in this place. It's more than our families and our organizations and our state and our networks. Home is who we are. It's in the reasons we came to this work, and it's in the principles that our organizations are founded on. And it's who we've always been. People who do this work in the way that we do and in the way that we aspire to do, because we believe that that dream that the dreamers dreamed is worth fighting for, it's worth taking risks for, and it's worth coming home for. Thank you.